Good evening, listeners. This is Blessed Radio. It's Tuesday evening and it's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. Oh, I'm getting a bit of echo. Gregory, could you just put yourself on mute, please? Yeah. Oh, you're on mute. Okay. So welcome, listeners, to the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL Message by Uprushing. I'm Saad in southeast London, where the weather has been warm, 25 degrees and overcast as well, sunny, partly sunny and mostly overcast. And with me as usual is Gregory. Gregory, how are you and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine and it's a bit balmy. Just getting cool now. It's been very, very warm.
Right, okay. I think that's warmer than what we've got here then. Thank you. Welcome, Gregory. So listeners, we have a topic for discussion every week, a new topic. The topic for tonight is awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. It is again, I'll repeat, awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the GRAIL message? The GRAIL message, in the light of truth, by Uprushing, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The GRAIL message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the GRAIL message, Uprushing. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the GRAIL message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the GRAIL message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, I just want to remind you the topic we are discussing tonight is awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. I will just repeat that. Is awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. Questions or comments? By contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, I like to look at the words in the topic in the dictionary, and it's quite a lot of words this time. And the first word we have is awake. So what I found in the dictionary, it says there are 3 meanings given there actually, but I will go slowly. So the first one for awake, it says to cease sleeping, to wake up. What do you say? Maybe I should read the whole thing and then we can talk more specifically. And the next one, it says to become aroused or active again. And thirdly, it says to become conscious or aware of something. So Gregory, anything, what would you say with those definitions about awake?
The last definition seems most appropriate.
Right, okay. So which is to become conscious or aware of something. So that's what you're talking about, awake here. Okay. Now, I want to go into that further, Gregory, about being awake, about being conscious. What is it that we are saying is becoming awake? Is it the body, the mind, the person, the consciousness? As we mentioned consciousness. So what is it that is becoming awake? The body, the mind, the person?
Well, it is best to start with facts. Which facts are perceptible to us? That is what nature offers. What nature offers are the tools that we use here to experience, albeit in the physical body. So in the physical body, there are the tools which we refer to as the 5 senses. So when those 5 senses are functional, are awake, are conscious, or can be utilized, in that state, one may talk about someone being awake. Whereas if one of those 5 senses is not functional or partly functional, most likely that would be a sleep state. So that is one aspect. There is another aspect. There is the case where all the five senses are functional. At the same time, one has to consider being awake in one's thoughts. That means to be conscious in one's thoughts. Of course, human personalities have thoughts. For one to be conscious means one must have been reflecting or thinking. To be able to think about a particular issue and examine it with one's thoughts. So that is another level of being awake. And then there is the much higher level of one's intuition, which intuition must have arisen out of the inner core of man, which is of spirit, to be able to use that one actively. That is, to be able to use it to experience. So we have, on the one hand, being awake spiritually, which means that one's intuition are very active. Being awake in one's thoughts, and being awake in the gross material physical, in one's deeds, being able to perceive of that which is of gross matter, all the manifestations of gross matter, to be able to identify and participate in it. That is the other level of being awake. So there are three levels, and man is to experience three of them to make sure they harmonize.
Thank you very much for your answer there, Gregory, and the explanation. So yes, as you said, there are three, I was going to use the word factors, but three elements, which is the five senses, the body, need to be awake or active, and the thoughts, we must be conscious of our thoughts, and the other one was intuition, which is you could say, the voice of our spirit, the inner core, as you mentioned there, being active. All of them have to be active, and of course, as you mentioned, at the end, they need to harmonize. So that has a common theme from our previous shows. I recognize that. So, okay. Now, so that was the first word in the topic, awake. I'm just thinking, yeah, no, let's continue to the second word, which is experience. Just to repeat the topic again, just so people are aware what we're saying here, which is awake, experience the pure light of the highest. And now we're looking at the meaning of the word experience, the second word. So Gregory, I looked that up in the dictionary again, and we have two meanings given there. First one, practical contact with an observation of facts or events. They say the example they give of that is he had learned his lesson by painful experience. So that's practical contact with an observation of facts or events. Do you want to say something on that before I continue, Gregory?
Well, with the word experience, there are three levels. The gross material experiencing in which one is able to have contact with the physical. In that particular case, one is able to live through events that have manifested in gross material, physical nature. That is one level. The other level is through one's thoughts, to be able to examine through one's thoughts. And then the highest level is that of one's intuition. So when one considers these three divisions, and one can now say one has an experience. But don't forget, one can experience in thoughts without having to experience in deeds. One can experience in one's intuition without having to experience in thoughts. One can experience gross materially without having to have experienced it in one's thoughts. So to experience means to live through. All right, so there must have been some commonality that man has to be able to live through that particular realm or that particular sphere of existence, which could be, say, gross material, or through one's thoughts, or through one's intuition.
Thank you again, Gregory, for this answer there. So what you have said there is first we talked about awake, where you said, these the physical, the senses, the five senses, the thoughts, and the intuition need to be active, conscious, you can say consciously active, and then experiencing where we are using those three, I'm going to use the word elements, in our living experiences, or living, our, what we go through in life. So, and I think you pointed out that each of those elements, you can have it in their own world. It can be an experience in its own world. They don't have to mix necessarily. So, okay. Now, I'm just thinking, should I continue with the rest of the topic of the words? Yes, let's do that. Let's continue with the meaning of each of the words. So the next word in the topic is pure. Well, that's the one I'm using looking in the dictionary, pure. And in the dictionary, it says not mixed or adulterated with any other substance or material. There's another meaning which they have given in for music, which is perfectly in tune with a clear tone. So the meaning of the word pure there, Gregory, says not mixed or adulterated with any other substance or material. What do you say on that definition? Are you on mute, Gregory?
Thank you. To be in line or in tune with our the pattern we have been following, there could be purity in deeds. There could be purity of thoughts, and there could be purity of intuition. In each of these categories, purity is considered when it is unadulterated. That means other vibrations do not cloud. If other vibrations do not cloud the original thoughts, then it is pure, be it one's intuition or one's thoughts. The same thing goes with one's deeds. If those deeds vibrate in such a way that they resonate in accordance with the law through which human personality came into existence, then it is pure.
Thank you, Gregory. So you can see what you've said there, talking about pure there. If you want to have maximum effect you got to be fully awake and fully experiencing, and then working in purity. Like you can say gold is, well, I don't think you can 100% pure gold, but let's say something you can have 100% pure, then it will have the maximum effect. So yes, so I can see that. And I've realized, Gregory, I forgot to look up the meaning of the word light, but I have just done it as we were moving on. And so I'm going to read what I found just now. It says, the natural agent that stimulates sight and makes things visible. That's they're saying, example there, the light of the sun. And another word they used was, it is to provide with light or illuminate. So I'll just repeat that. The meaning of the word light, it is the natural agent that stimulates sight and makes things visible. For example, the light of the sun. Is that right in our context, that we are in our topic of discussion tonight, Gregory?
As is in accordance with the separation and the different categories, there is the light when considered gross materially in deeds. There is also the light when one's thoughts are considered. And finally, there is also the light when one's intuitions are considered. In all these cases, the different categories, you will find that light is connected with power. So when one says, oh, when there's a flash of intuition, it is connected with power. It is connected to a large extent with vision. Even if through that intuition or through that thought, we had a voice, we would say, oh, some light has been shed on it. Doesn't mean it has to be gross material, physical light. But it's as if something has been uncovered. So light in itself is connected to power. It is the light that sort of animates. That means the power through which light manifests, that is what really animates.
Thank you very much for that answer there, Gregory. Yes, I can see. Initially, when you said power, light can be said as power. I was a bit unsure, but now when you talked further, I could see that yes, light is a power that animates, as you say. So yes, I can see that. And it illuminates, that's the other word I saw in the dictionary. So as you said, throw light on something, it shines what's behind it or what's underneath it. So yeah, so thank you for that. And the next word I have in our topic, just to remind us again, it's a long topic title in the topic tonight, which is awake, experience the pure light of the highest. So I looked up the word highest, and in one dictionary I got many meanings in it. If I am honest, the first dictionary I found wasn't so much there, but the second one gave a lot of And that I thought, oh, that's a bit funny. Why is this saying so many different meanings for the word highest? But when we go through it now, it'll, I think, start to make sense. So, Greg, I'll go through them. So this is the word, actually the word is high, but of course it's associated, highest is connected to that. So I will say the first meaning I found was of great vertical extent, or you can say tallest. So that's the first one. Then another one I found is great or greater than normal in quantity, size, or intensity. Another meaning was advanced towards most culminating period, meaning like high season, or most fully developed, or most creative stage. Another one I got in the dictionary, it says verging on lateness, meaning example being high time. Another one was rich in quality, luxurious is the word they use there, being the highest. Another one was exalted or elevated in character, noble. So this is again, we have these meanings of the word high, highest. Another one was of relatively great importance, foremost, serious, grave, solemnity, critical. And it even went, talked about the first order or best quality. For, they give the example of being sublime, heroic. And then I think finally I'll pick this one, filled with or expressing great joy or excitement, meaning the example being high spirits. So Gregory, as I say, I was taken aback when I looked up this word high or highest and found so many, you could say, aspects of the word high expressed so much in different sort of ways. Now, is there anything, Gregory, in our discussion, just to remind again that the topic, what it is tonight, is awake, experience the pure light of the highest. So what were any of those meanings, Gregory, in the dictionary suitable for the word highest that we are discussing?
There was one of the ones you mentioned of quality, of noble quality, as is in accordance with the pattern we've chosen. One must consider that expression in deeds, in thoughts, and in one's intuition, because these three different categories are connected with the human personality. Until these different categories are considered here on earth, then it will be incomplete for when the human personality is no more here on earth. One cannot be talking about one's deeds on earth or one's thoughts. It will be one's intuition. Therefore, when that word highest is considered, one may consider the context in which it is used. That means of noble quality, deeds of noble quality, which deeds are considered similar to the virtues. So not only in deeds, but also in thoughts and also in one's intuition.
Thank you very much, Gregory. I was reflecting on what you just said there, and and in correspondence with the topic for tonight. And I hear what you say about highest in terms of human deeds, thoughts, and intuition. But the topic, and that's fine. And the topic, I think, is referring to something a bit different. So I just repeat the topic. Awake, experience the pure light of the highest. And you refer to the word light as power of the highest, pure power of the highest. And I didn't think of our human beings as the highest being. So, and having this power. So, because we use the power, but we don't really have a power as human beings. So is that, in that context, what I just mentioned, how is the word highest coming in there?
Well, you have used it in that context, taking the whole. But initially, you were taking the parts. So one had to discuss the parts as they stand on their own before they are joined together. When they are then joined together, it gives a more different picture. It gives a slightly different context. Whereas when they stand on their own, they are just open.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that answer, explanation. I'm just going to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL message by Abdrushim. And if you're interested to know more about the GRAIL message or want to get a copy of the GRAIL message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. Awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. If you want to, if you have any questions or comments, you can join in by calling us or texting us or using WhatsApp on this UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can, as I said, call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Space live stream. That's for the live show. You can also listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Space GRAIL message. Space the topic of the show, which tonight is awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno, which is ZENO.FM / radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory he spent half an hour looking at the topics, the meaning of the words in the topic, and now we want to go deeper into, what all this, with the whole, like you say, we had the context by one with the individual words, and now we want to put it all together, to get the, let's say, the bigger context, the bigger picture. Now, we talk about awakening of the senses, the 5 senses, the thoughts, and the intuition. So now we know this is a spiritual show, and you can say this awakening is about spiritual awakening. Even we are using all our senses, all the 3 elements, if I use those words, which we have. But let's say we are, in a way, what we want to go into is the deeper questions that touch us. So, for example, we ask questions, and the questions like, who am I? And why am I here? So, Gregory, those questions, we know they are, let's say, teachings and philosophies and, let's say, theories as well out there. Science has been also looking at these things. But my question on this is, Gregory, is it possible to answer these questions sort of with this, with some knowing that the answer we are receiving is not like a, how can I say, just like, I'm going to use the word opinion in quotes, in the sense of just something that somebody has told us, or somebody just says something, but we don't really have any idea is real or not real. So, I mean, without going to too much specifics, we know, science has some theories or their own idea how we came here, and so on, and spiritual teachings have their own ideas in how we came here. So, is it really possible, Gregory, to discover with those 3 elements that we discussed, the 5 senses, the thoughts, and the intuition, to come to sort of, I was going to use the word satisfactory, but maybe that's not quite the correct word, to a real understanding of this type of questions. For example, I said, who am I and why am I here?
Actually, those 3 categories suffice to explain all the questions, for it is that which nature or creation offers to us for experiencing. It is within these 3 categories that one, therefore, can find answers. Else, if one of these categories is not considered here on earth, then the answer, or whatever solution is provided, becomes insufficient. Means there will be a hole, there's something lacking. So it is possible. But at the same time, one must ask. You talked about religions, you talked about science, you talked about philosophies. The question each person must ask themselves, what does science do? What does philosophy do? What does religion do? Starting from religion nowadays, these are referred to as faith, beliefs. Beliefs, when not examined in accordance with what nature has provided, that which nature has provided, the operations in nature, or what operation has been put in place. These framework one refers to as the laws of nature, or more generally as the laws of creation for that which has come into existence. So every belief must be subjected to the laws of nature, to the laws of creation. The same thing happens to philosophies. The same thing happens to science. It is because these categories you mentioned, science, philosophy, or religion, were not subjected to these laws of nature or laws of creation. That is why there are so many gaps. Therefore, these, whatever manifests here on earth, or in our thoughts, or in our intuition, must be subjected to the laws of nature, of creation, through which everything came into existence. So that is the basis. With that, all confusion will vanish. That reference framework remains. And that reference framework is very objective. In fact, it is the reference framework, which reference framework itself does not change, but has always remained the same.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for your answer there. But there's an assumption in what you have said is that let's say you're saying that the laws of nature is the reference framework for giving answers to our questions about life. You can say the only let's say issue I have with that is you are making assumption that we know what these laws of nature are, and that what is the framework, we are aware of it. When I say aware of it, I don't mean just, we see nature. I mean, understand it. So that level, because we already talked about the highest earlier on, I don't think anybody can claim that they have this level. They might have some awareness of nature, but not really, let's say, sufficient knowledge of nature to understand life and how it functions. So how do we get to know that level that is necessary about nature?
It is understandable that many are familiar with these words, with these expressions, but the intrinsic understanding is lacking. All education, which education should be profitable, not only in deeds, but also in thoughts and also in one's intuition, must consider these laws through which all came into existence. After all, if we ourselves try to understand that we came through nature and nature has laws, then the first task is to reflect on what these laws are. But these things are not taken seriously. They are only spoken of, all right, at occasions and forgotten. One thing must be very clear, which is irreducible, and that is that motion is a law in creation. Motion is a law in nature. This can be observed by even children because they are very buoyant. They are always here and there, always in motion. One can also observe movement around. Movement is part of motion. Vibration is part of motion. So all that exists, which are perceptible to our five senses, are in motion. Even our five senses are in motion. So all that one perceives in nature, the hills and the dales, all the rivers, the oceans, mention it. Human breathing, growth of plants and animals, all is in motion. So, very generally, it is undeniable and irreducible to understand that motion is a law in creation. One does not need to go to a high institution to know about this because each individual experiences it, be it a plant or an animal or we ourselves. So motion is ubiquitous and it's a law in creation. That is the first recognition that the human personality must come to, because having observed the cognitions that have been provided within the interactions in nature of which we are a part, from that cognition, one can silently come to that conclusion that there is motion everywhere. And that being the case, it must be accepted. What was not considered is to take it further of the features of motion through which many other things can be recognized. Like has been discussed in this forum, motion. There are only two categories of motion, which categories are quite simple. The first category is that motion in which the end of the motion flows back to the beginning. This is very clear and cannot be denied. The second category of motion is that in which the end does not flow back to the beginning. Just two basic categories. And since motion is a law in creation, a law in nature, these two categories manifest in all that there is, in deeds, in nature, in our thoughts, and in our intuitions. So one has taken a step further. In that category in which the end flows back to the beginning, one might give it an expression of a reciprocal action. For one perceives that which goes through a cycle, a reciprocal activity. So one may also say that one of the laws of motion is that of reciprocal activity. Many have observed this, even children have observed this. You hear all sorts of words, action and reaction, because it's been written in books. You hear when children are at play and things like that. So this is very clear. Even in that category in which the end flows back to the beginning, one may ask, why do you have it in that case? One may then come to a conclusion that it seems or it appears more like an attraction of that which is homogeneous. And that is why it goes back to the beginning. Therefore, from one feature, from one category, one can already see that two laws have emerged. That's of reciprocal activity and that's of the attraction of homogeneity. These are fundamental in nature, in creation, and have an impact or affect us in our deeds, in our thoughts, and in our intuitions. There is the other category in which the end does not flow back to the beginning, and that only manifests where you have a precipitation, a case of densification. That densification is what many now refer to as gravitation. These three different laws, which seem connected, must be examined in all educational activities so that it is very well hammered within the activities of men. That is all there is. From that basis, from that framework, all happenings, all activities on earth, all activities here in nature or beyond nature may be examined. And only through that examination is one then permitted to experience. And that which was believed now moves away from mere belief without examination to the area of personal experiencing because it has been examined. So in one case where you just have religion talking about faith, now you now have personal conviction. And it's the conviction that gives one the confidence, that gives one the certainty that indeed motion is a law in creation. Therefore, all education must move towards this particular framework which governs all that has come into existence. In that case, there will be no argument because there is no what one may refer to conspiracy because it is so very clear when one examines it for oneself.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this detailed picture of the laws of nature that you painted. And you show it as you could say, a perfect, naturally, automatically working system. And surely it has proven to be successful with all the, things that have, that has been created in this world that we live. And then there's the human being that is somehow coming to the picture, because it seems to be there was natural development going on, and then man came on the scene, and somehow he derailed the nature, or worked against nature somehow, and managed to, well, in many ways we have good development technologically, but we know in other ways with human life interactions, with, even our fellow neighbors and people close to us, we seem to have some trouble in living in peace and harmony with love and justice, somehow, even though nature is there, which is an automatic system. It works automatically, but somehow it doesn't. With the human being being introduced, it seems something has gone out of place, let's say. So is there some fault, Gregory, in nature, that when the human being came around, was produced rather, or something happened?
There was no fault in the operations in nature, neither is there any fault, was or is. Here, the human personality is granted the free will to choose. And in making use of its free will, it might arrange things appropriately, or it might be too lazy and not arrange things in accordance with the pattern which has been shown to it. In that particular case, you'll find things go haywire due to laziness, which one may refer to as indolence. However, the decision is always there. In the course of our discussion, there was the reference to the gross material deeds, the thoughts of men, and the intuitions. At the same time, there was the reference made that these three different categories must harmonize. Wherever you have that one's intuition does not harmonize with one's thoughts, neither do one's thoughts harmonize with one's deeds, then in that particular scenario, it's more of a derailment of the human capacity to do things aright. And as long as it persists, before too long, the human personality will start adjusting to the derailment. It is the derailment in which we have that with the indolence of the human personality, that means the indolence of the spirit, unable to exert itself so very well as to stamp its impression on one's intellect. The intellect, on the other hand, continue to have its way relative to the happenings here on earth, and therefore you have that what has been neglected does not develop. That which has been in use develops. And therefore, you have the intellect from which our thoughts have arisen, the intellect developing in such a manner as to outstrip the influence of one's intuition. And that is why many cannot even recognize their intuition nowadays. And that being the case, the catastrophes that follow can be seen very clearly, such as you yourself just mentioned. In the society, are unable to live with one's neighbor, even if one does not consider one's neighbor, unable to live in harmony with oneself. That again is the cause of many an imbalance in the physical biology of man, in which certain areas have been overdeveloped and has led to the exaggeration of the development of certain organs. Therefore, it becomes very clear that there must be a harmonious cooperation between one's intuition, with one's intellect, or one's thoughts, and one's physical deeds.
Thank you very much for this picture again, Gregory, an answer. We want to explore more about that in a moment. Before I do that, I want to let the listeners know this is Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of this show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL message by Abdushin. If you want to know more about the GRAIL message or want to get a copy of the GRAIL message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I spell that www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is awake, experience the pure light of the highest. Awake, experience the pure light of the highest. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space GRAIL message, space the topic of the show, which is tonight is experience the pure light of the highest. I should say begin with awake, and then experience the pure light of the highest. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM. bless radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, I'm just slipping what you said earlier in the last question, but there was quite trying to recall it. It's a little bit. Could you give a little recap, Gregory, what you were saying in the last question? I just need a reminder on that. But I've forgotten the question I asked last time.
Can you ask the question now? Because
yeah, I forgot. No, I needed
some of these things. After saying it, it's not stored in my head.
That's right.
It was just.
It's okay. It's the same is happening to me. The same is happening to me. I've forgotten what I asked you, and I'm trying to remember. So I think it was about the law, the laws, and how you can, how they actually manifest, and something of that order. I seem to remember. So okay, I'm thinking. You know, oh yes, how the human beings have messed up, basically. Now it's coming back to me, you know. Was it a fault of nature or something? But we said it wasn't a fault of anything, in the sense of some nature had gone astray somewhere. It wasn't that at all. It's the free will of man or human beings that makes decisions, and when you make decisions and do actions, you have consequences, as you've mentioned. So one of the law is law of reciprocal action, action and reaction. So of course there's a consequence when you do that, and you mentioned it was indolence or laziness of not using our abilities fully or properly that you know, has got us into the mess that we're in. So I'm thinking now. And oh yes, balance, Gregory. Everything has to work in balance. You know, yes, you have your 5 senses, you have got the thoughts, and you've got the intuition, and obviously they will need to harmonize and not overuse something, and then it leads to imbalance, you know. So that makes sense as well. So what I'm wondering now, you'd think, Gregory, after all this time of us human beings being on this earth, which is quite, let's say, a million years or so, we would have found some way of getting things sorted in the right way. You know, this balance. We know about the climate change issues that we are suffering. Every, let's say, news item every few days, you see the effects of it, and it's seems to be getting worse by the next news item, worse than what they predict even. It seems to be going that way. So, Gregory, have we lost our way somehow? Like it's coming to, you know, they talk about heaven and hell, and we experience, let's say, hell on, well, maybe that's a bit extreme word to use, but it looks like maybe hell is coming to the earth with our actions and decisions, like a disaster. So, and of course, you already talked about the human beings not being act as neighbors, you know. So, yeah, Gregory, is there like a hope for the future for humanity, that is, in turning these things round, or are we just going to keep going downhill into some disaster?
Again, following the pattern of framework which had been mentioned earlier from the beginning, where one is referring to the gross material deeds also one's thoughts and one's intuition. The key thing we mentioned for things to go right is that there must be harmony between one's intuition, one's thoughts, and one's gross material deeds. If coupled with that, purity is followed, once the intuition is pure, and it has a strong impact on the executive director, which is the intellect from which our deeds, our thoughts have arisen, then from our thoughts it will have a strong influence on our deeds in the gross material. In that particular state or in that particular pattern, then there will be improvement, because that which is of spirit strives after ennoblement of all that exists. That is which is of spirit. We strive to work with others of different abilities so as to make the earth a paradise where it is one for all and all for one. There will be cooperation. There will be no jealousy. There will be no anxiety, because many a personality will work diligently for the good, not only for himself or herself, but also for the good of others. In that case, there will be ennoblement upon ennoblement. Such scenario is what you have when many talk about the virtues. Many things will be done in such a way that it becomes virtuous, and it will bring hope to many a person. In that particular scenario, it will be joy and happiness. But for now, take a look at the earth. There is war in one place or the other, jealousy, there is wickedness, mention it. So it is the human personality, not the animals, not the plants, that have caused the havoc, but plain and simple, the human personality that has the free will to decide how they wish to proceed. It is they themselves who have precipitated the catastrophes. Again, it is they themselves, when they strive to live in purity, when they strive to live in the ennoblement, not only of themselves, but of their neighbor, which neighbor could be a human personality, which neighbor could also be the environment, not only the gross material physical environment, but the environment which have surrounded the individual in their thoughts and in their intuitions. In that particular scenario, then one environment will join with another environment filled with joy and happiness. That is the task of man.
Thank you very much for this picture there, Gregory. I hear what you said there, because that's what you said, that is the goal or task of man, to bring harmony and bring harmony and work with nature, you can say. And the reality seems to be the opposite somehow. We've turned against nature and disconnected ourselves with the world, or somehow lost our way. And but I don't know if you answered this part of the question, which I was saying, it looks like we are heading to disaster. So are we, I mean, the potential is always there to turn away from the disaster. But is that, is it possible to look into the future, Gregory, to see, oh yes, we are going to end up in the disaster, or somehow we can still turn back? Is it too late?
The future only manifests based on the present, how man responds to the challenges of the present. If he or she responds in such a way as to precipitate disaster, then disaster awaits. If he or she acts in such a way as to precipitate that which is noble, then nobility awaits it. So the future specifically is already consummated in the activities, the decisions of man.
Thank you for that. So what I see from that is currently, I mean, even if you watch just in the last few years and months, like I said, with the climate change as an example, we seem to be heading, things are getting worse than even what was predicted, just based on just a few months and years on what we are seeing in the climate. I know that's not even other things. So it doesn't look too hopeful, let's say, at the moment, how things are. Is there any time limit, Gregory, to turn around? I mean, for this, to turn around our situation, or just gonna ask you that. Is there any time limit to turn our situation around?
Again and again, it's been stressed that motion is a law in creation. And that being the case, here in the world of matter came into existence through precipitation, which precipitation is that of energy which has precipitated to form the world of matter. The world of matter came into existence, evolves, integrates. We get to a peak, and subsequently it will return to its primeval substance. That again is motion. That again reflects reciprocal activity. That again reflects the law of the attraction of homogeneity. In that particular scenario, the world of matter itself will come to a state, which state will be that it will undergo disintegration to its primeval substances. Having that picture, one can already see that indeed there is a time limit. However, one must remember that it was not immediately the world of matter was formed that the human personality came into existence in the world of matter. It has come to experience. Things had to be prepared. The universe had to be prepared. The earth had to be prepared there was a gradual preparation of these different parts of the gross material universe. And therefore, when the time was right, man had to incarnate in the same vein. Man must live when there is the gradual disintegration of matter. Therefore, there is a time limit. It is best for the human personality to mature quickly. That means to come to self-consciousness. That means to have cultivated those talents which have been imbued into it, in such a way that is able to depart from this world of matter and rise higher to its origin, the paradise of man, as a self-conscious human personality, where it is able to cooperate in the workings of the spirit and in the workings in the world of matter. If, however, it does not do so on time and is still bound to the world of matter, the scenario will be that there will be disintegration in the world of matter in accordance to reciprocal activity, and because it is tied to it, it will have to experience that disintegration. The human personality then will be crushed. That means it will lose, through its experiences, the human form, which human form is familiar to us. It will then revert back to its original as a spirit seed grain. It will revert back to unconsciousness. That is what is referred to as spiritual damnation. For the human personality first had to experience, in the sense that the world of matter was prepared for it in order to be able to come and experience and grow and becomes subsequently self-conscious. But having wasted the opportunity, it reverts back to its original as an unconscious spirit gem. Then that opportunity which was granted to it has been in vain.
Thanks very much for this answer, Gregory. You really went through a detailed picture of, you could say, the journey of the human being from, let's say, today to the future, and then even to the beginning of our journey, you know, and what can happen to us according to the decisions and actions that we do make. So yes, I think the effect can be quite devastating when we, let's say, go go astray and lose our way. You know, losing your consciousness is that is something very massive, you can say, for us. So thank you for that, you know, picture that you've shown us there. I'm wondering now if we start at the beginning asking, who am I? And, what am I doing here? I mean, you painted a picture there already in an earlier question. You also mentioned about, building the paradise on the earth, which hasn't gone too well. And I'm just thinking, I want to bring something in. I'll try to do it as briefly as I can. There's a new story that came today. So I'm going to just go through it quickly, Gregory. So basically, there's a school in Sussex, in South London of England, where in this classroom of 13-year-old students and teacher, they were talking about gender or self-identification. I know these are very hotly discussed topics in the world of today, at least out here in the West, you can say. And so I'm just going to relate the story there. So basically, this is not starting at the beginning, but anyway, this is what happened as the conversation went along. It says, at one point, the teacher reacted to this, is to the student, how dare you? You just upset someone saying things like that and saying that they should be in asylum. And the student replied, I didn't say that. I said if they want to identify like a cat or something that they think they are, then they're genuinely unwell. The teacher argued with the students' view on gender, saying that it was not consistent with equity and inclusion and was therefore not an acceptable opinion. She added a threat that the students would be reported to the administration and would have to go to maybe a different school to benefit from a re-education, saying if you don't like these ideas, you need to go to a different school, and I'm reporting you to the assistant head. You need to have proper educational conversation about equality, diversity, and inclusion. I'm not having this expressed in my lesson when I'm teaching you about how, sorry, I better say that again. I'm not having that expressed in my lesson when I'm teaching you about who you can be and who you want to be and how you want to identify yourself. So I'm sorry it sounds a bit out of context, Gregory, what I'm reading out there. That was the story, how it came in the story in this newspaper, and but I saw it also on the TV. So just in case you didn't follow it, so people are saying, oh, I can be a cat, or I can be a horse, or something like that. And I know it might sound funny and not genuine, but actually that is what, and I know these are children, so I hear that people will say, oh, this is not really a serious point here. But actually, these are discussions that are actually going on in school with the teachers and children. It's not some comedy that I'm talking about here. So people are questioning, oh, what am I, or can I identify myself as this or that? And we have our freedom and we can say it, So this is one, and then some other people will be arguing, just to give the other point, they say, no, there's only two genders, male and female, and everything else is not real. It's like something else. So my question on this, Gregory, is, we talked earlier, we have free will. You can express your ideas, your opinions as, as you think. But then obviously there's an impact. So first of all, Gregory, just to give a little bit of context, overall answer on it, would you say these questions and discussions that are going on in the classroom, with these are 13-year-old children in this case, is that a suitable discussion for children to have?
You have identified many of the discussions. Can you precisely say Is it gender or is it cats? I'm not quite sure which
I'm
is which
sorry.
now.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it can be confusing. Yeah. Okay, let's do it by identity, not gender. So that I can be this identity, I can choose to call myself this, and I mean that in a serious way. That I won't. I know you might say, oh, they're not like a cat at all, but they want to say I'm a cat, and this is not acting, as I say. They believe they actually want to say that, and that's how they want to be even addressed. Let me say, it's as serious as this. As I say, you might laugh at that, but this is what they're saying, and so let's put this gender to the side for this moment. Just identifying somebody this way, and people are doing this, as I say, and I have let me say that first. Are people free to express themselves this way, Gregory, as children?
Of course, people have free will to express themselves. That's why they have a free will. Some people call themselves lions. Those who call themselves lions in different cultures and different languages, no one rebukes them. They even have it as their surname or their first name. So there's no issue with that. Even when it is used in literature that he is a lion, which means he's brave, all these things have been accepted. So one cannot find any fault with that when these figures of speech are brought into it, and oh, he's like a cat, or she's like a cat, or he's like a lion. Those who are called lion feel happy. Those who are called names which depict that which is filled with courage, they feel elated. So one cannot see that which is troublesome about it, because many of these are basically figures of speech. If a 10-year-old says, oh, I want to be called a lion, no one will oppose that. Some people call themselves dogs, although they spell it differently. So when examined carefully, these are figures of speech to sort of express a particular character. And in many cultures, they are accepted.
Thank you, Gregory. I'm going to add to that what you've just said there to give bring it back to the new story. So what was happening? Let's say two students were talking to the teacher, and one student was, I know I don't have the full story here, but from what you've said, I've just got the gist of reminder of what was happening in this incident. Basically, one student was saying, if somebody calls himself cat or herself cat, identified themselves as a cat, then they think that they're to say something like that, you must be unwell and you should be sent to an asylum, let's say mental asylum, for treatment there. And then the teacher reacted to that remark saying, oh, it's like you're offending somebody who wants to call himself cat, and that's not right, because that you're now excluding them from this. Our policy is to have inclusivity. So by you condemning the person, that's not acceptable. So in that opinion, you now need to be re-educated. I mean, the teachers seem to be having quite themselves an extreme view of how they were going to deal with it, and say, oh, I'm going to report you to the head teacher, and you need to be re-educated. So that was, in a way, the story about this incident. So the point, if I can ask a question on that, Gregory, the question is, yes, you're free to speak as you like, but how should these different voices, different views should be, you could say, managed in peace, rather than it might seem, oh, you have extreme view this way and another person has an extreme view another way. Is there how to keep the peace there and make people feel inclusive?
strictly speaking, the human personality always has a free will to express himself or herself, as long as that free will has not a negative impact or a degrading impact on another. Then the human personality is free to make its decisions. It is not right to say, okay, you shouldn't speak this way or shouldn't speak that way. Then people may make errors, but it borders on ridiculous activities to now say, oh, I called myself a lion, and therefore one has offended. I shouldn't be a lion. And yet, at the same time, even in races, they said, oh, this person is as fast as a cheetah and all that. They even give themselves names. And all this borders on pettiness. And so they are best ignored. And there are more challenging things out there than to go into all these teacher getting involved and saying, oh, don't call yourself a lion. People even call themselves elephants, depending on the culture. Go to different cultures and you have different expressions. So it is not right for one to now jump in where figures of speech are being used to make things clearer. Each person reserves the right to call himself or herself a lion or a lioness.
Thank you for your answer, Gregory. I'm going to go to another aspect of this thing in a moment, which, let's say, could be more fruitful in our discussion. So just to let listeners know, you're listening to Blessed Radio. It's a Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL message by Abdushin. And if you'd like to get more information on the GRAIL message or would like to get a copy of the GRAIL message for yourself, then you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is Awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. Awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. And you can listen to us also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, live stream. That's for the live show. You can also listen to the recording of this show the next day, again on youtube.com, and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, GRAIL message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is Awake. Experience the pure light of the highest. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, you can listen to us on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, I'm trying to think of going to this. Like I said earlier on, we talked about who are we, or and where do we come from, and so on. And it's not something, let's say, that you know. I mean, you know how we came from our parents, and their parents came from their parents, and so on. So in general, that we know. But then we're still asking the question: who are we, or where are we coming from? And and as I say, science is trying to answer that through evolution, or spiritual teachings telling us God created the world and we came out of that. And then, Gregory, you talked earlier about nature, the laws of nature, which brought us into the being, you can say. So I'm wondering, can we, the three categories you mentioned, Gregory, which is the 5 senses, the thoughts, and the intuition, are we able to sort of discover our origin, or where we're coming from and who we are, through those categories? And if so, how? How can we know that?
Although it is imperative and very clear, one should look at it very carefully. The mention was made of that which is perceptible in deeds, in which the 5 senses are used as instruments to interact. That is undeniable. Outside of that are this second category of human thoughts. That again is very clear, because human personalities, they think. So it is undeniable. The seeds of one's thoughts comes from one's brain, albeit one's frontal brain. For one who has no brain, that personality cannot think. So, logically, it follows. One's thoughts, once they harmonize with one's deeds, then it is beneficial and helpful. But don't forget, one's thoughts may be different from one's deeds. That means you may be thinking of one thing and yet doing another thing. That means you might be praising somebody, whereas in your thoughts you might be destroying that person. This is very common to many a person. The same thing happens with one's intuition. Many will ask, do we have intuition? Only those will ask those questions who have not allowed their intuitions to have a strong impression on their thoughts. For many understand that there are many a time in which they have reflected on challenges in order to find a solution and couldn't find any solution in their thoughts. And just as when they had given up thinking about it, a flash hits them, a solution of what they themselves have been reflecting on. Sometimes that solution has no bearing on the thoughts they have had. It becomes completely different. Many scenarios like this abound. No question about it. Therefore, one must admit that there is more other than one's thoughts. So when one considers the categories of one's intuition, the category of one's thoughts, and the category of one's deeds, gross materially, these three different areas has been stressed should harmonize. Only in that way can further discoveries be made. For many of the philosophies or the religions or teachings, even the so-called sciences, most of these things have not been examined thoroughly enough. In the case of faith, or be it called religion, these things are not examined. To examine does not mean to criticize. To examine is to interact with these in deeds, in thoughts, and also in one's intuition, in accordance with motion. So many different scenarios will manifest. One must use the three different categories for continuous examination that will grant the human personality the necessary maturity. In that particular state of continuous examination, one becomes more and more familiar, as if one is developing oneself gross materially, physically. One becomes stronger, not only in deeds, but also stronger and purer in thoughts, and above all, stronger and purer in one's intuition. Then, from that basis, one may ask the questions which had accosted it in religion regarding creation, regarding science. Only from that basis, from such a clear basis, can one sit or can one stand. Otherwise, it will be some further experience along the line, some further evidence along the line will sweep away what has been built up because of a wrong notion. For as we all know, motion is a law in creation. There is continuity. There is no stoppage. In that particular case, it means many different impressions will assail us. Or do we wish to deny that impressions do not assail us? Impressions which were not there initially? When these impressions assail us as questions, it is our duty to investigate further. Only such inflexible weighing and examining, inflexible examination, as have been mentioned, in which the end flows back to the beginning, in which we have a reciprocal activity, in which in sorting out there is the attraction of homogeneity, and also in weighing, in which that which is lighter is above that which is heavier, which has been stressed in gravitation in accordance as has been stressed, in which the end does not flow back to the beginning. These are areas which the human personality must hold and continue to examine in all that it comes across or all that comes across it. Only in that only in that continuous fashion can it make progress.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this answer. I want to ask, is there anything we can do, Gregory, to sharpen our, because you mentioned those, three categories, the five senses, our thoughts, and the intuition. And you said it has to work in harmony. Is there anything we can do to sharpen ourselves to work like in this pure way, like you said, so we experience in the max, I'm going to say, most effectively.
Again, questions like this abound in many places. And the solution lies in the laws of creation, in which, in all that one comes across, one must strive to classify or to categorize that in which the end flows back to the beginning, in which one refers to that an activity which has been put into motion, be it in our thoughts, be it in our intuition, in our deeds, that we flow back. It's as if we have sown a seed, as we find in nature. So this applies not only to gross material happening like sowing and reaping, but also in our thoughts, in the balance of things. So it is in the practice or in putting these things into practice that it makes us stronger in our thoughts, in our deeds. For whenever we put in the effort, before long, things will become clearer and clearer, not only in gross material deeds, not only in our thoughts, but also in our intuitions. So, in all that we do, he or she who receives must make use of it vigorously and pass it on. Therein lies some balance. That means that which has touched you, you yourself, you have made use of it, it has benefited you. Just as it has benefited you, you should pass it on to be of benefit to the others. So these things sound and are simple. So the human personality must start with the simple things in his thoughts, in his activities, and in his intuition. Only by practicing it again and again and again, only in that pattern will one be strengthened, and before long strive to give harmony between one's intuition and one's thoughts and one's gross material activities.
Thank you very much for that answer there, Gregory. We've come to the end of the show, listeners. Hope you enjoyed our discussion on Awake, experience the pure light of the highest. And I'd like to read from the GRAIL message. This time I want to read something from the lecture called What Seek Ye? And this is towards the end of the lecture. It's actually the first lecture of the GRAIL message. So I will begin. And as I say, I'm starting in the, you could say, halfway through the lecture, as it is, let's say, very appropriate for the topic we've been discussing tonight. Not for nothing does the great master exhort us, become like children. He who bears within himself the firm volition for what is good and strives to give purity to his thoughts has already found the way to the highest. All else will then be added unto him. This requires neither books nor spiritual strain, neither asceticism nor solitude. He will become sound in body and soul, freed from all pressure of morbid pondering. For all exaggeration is harmful. You are meant to be human beings, not hothouse plants, which through one-sided cultivation succumb to the first puff of wind. Awake. Look around. Listen to your inner voice. That alone can open the way. Heed not the dissensions of the churches. The great bringer of truth, Christ Jesus, the personification of divine love, did not concern himself with creeds. After all, what are the creeds today? A shackling of the free spirit of man, enslavement of the divine spark dwelling within you, dogmas that seek to compress the work of the Creator and also his great love into forms molded by the human mind. This indicates a dishonoring of divinity, a systematic disparaging. Every serious seeker is repulsed by such things because they prevent him from ever experiencing the great reality within himself. As a result, his longing for the truth becomes increasingly hopeless, and finally he despairs of himself and of the world. Therefore, awake. Shatter the walls of dogma within you. Tear off the bandage, so that the pure light of the highest may reach you, undimmed. Then your spirit will soar aloft in exaltation, jubilantly sensing all the great love of the Father, which knows no limitations of earthly intellect. You will at last know that you are a part of this love. You'll grasp it easily and completely, unite with it, and thus gain new strength daily and hourly as a gift, enabling you to ascend out of the chaos as a matter of course. So, dear listeners, that is from What Seek Ye in the first lecture of the GRAIL message. And just remind you, if you do want to get a copy of the GRAIL message or want more information, you can go to this website, which is www.grail, message, message.com. Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say good night?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week.
Thank you. Listeners, thank you for being with us tonight. I also wish you a great week. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. UK time, with another topic. Take care. God bless.